That's from David Latimer.
Wow. Are we done now? That was fantastic. Thank you. We're going to stay on the musical theme, and Fran Caro is going to come up. Long-standing friend of Mom and Dad's, but also the long-serving secretary of the music festival. And so we may have a connection. Welcome, Fran.
Yes, my name is Fran Caro, and I was the secretary of the Lakehead Music Festival with Marion and many other friends. Marion was not only a good friend, she was my best friend at festival time, helping with selecting the music to be played, to handling tickets and door duties. She was always a willing helper. I gratefully appreciated her expert advice and knowledge that I called upon many times over those 24 years. Marion made my festival life more enjoyable and often controllable. It was a pleasure, I am sure, for the adjudicators to hear Marion's students perform. They always arrived well-taught, thoroughly prepared, and played with self-assured confidence. Marion instilled in her students the desire to perform to the best of their ability and encouraged them to achieve a high level of success. It's no wonder when we travel to Toronto with students competing at the provincial level, many of them were Marion students. Our friendship continued after festival when Marion and Bill bought a summer residence at Shabandawan. Many hot tubs and dinners were shared between us, and we all were very nice to Dawn because we needed a fourth hand for bridge on Saturday nights. This continued until last fall, when we played a few hands at St. Joe's. Their flower garden at Shabandawan, the gardens were a sight to behold, and many times when we arrived, Marion was in knee-high boots, pulling weeds, changing plants around, or just enjoying the fruits of their labor, sitting on the deck with a book in her hands. Marion was a lady of strong character. She loved life, loved her family and friends, and we were always welcome to her summer home with open arms, whether it was a barbecue or hobo stew with friends. I have been lucky and very thankful to have been able to share some of Marion's wisdom, humor, and love, and to have been able to call her my good friend.
Next up, my 4 kids. You guys ready? They're a little nervous, but they'll do great. Mom's grandkids, some of them.
Okay. My sisters and I are going to be saying 10 things that we miss most about our grandma and some stories.
Okay, so my name's Lauren. If anybody doesn't know, I'm the second eldest. The first thing that I remember about Grandma is that she loved to play cards, and she taught the rest of us how to play canasta when we were at the cottage up there. We spent about 2 weeks at the cottage with Grandma and Grandpa doing lots of different things. And but we always played canasta, always had time to play cards. And whenever she wasn't winning, she would say, "You guys are cleaning my clock." That was one of her favorite sayings. And when she was winning, she would always say that she had a bad hand. And we caught on to that pretty quickly, knowing that she was lying. And most of the time she did win until Cindy and I got pretty good at the game. And then it was a draw. The second thing I remember about Grandma is that she loved to play pretend, especially when we were little. She bought us a tea set. It was, I still remember, it was bright pink, and the tea set was white, and it had the spoons and the cups and the teapot and sugar and milk for it and everything. And we would always put water in it and have cookies, and she would play tea with us, and then we'd bring our dolls out and everything, and she always named one of them Lucy. Lucy was her favorite for one of the dolls, and we'd get dressed up and have a tea party, and that was one of the most favorite things that I remember doing with Grandma, because she just loved to play with us and play pretend, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun.
Alright, so the third thing I remember is, my name's Julia, and I'm the youngest girl. Watching Wheel of Fortune was Grandma's favorite. We would watch this game show with her often, and she would always figure out the word problems before the contestants could, so we always thought that she should try and join the game because we thought they could win it.
Okay, so one of the first things I remember about, my name's Sydney, I'm the oldest. One of the first things I remember about Grandma, and my Nona loves to tell the story too, is we used to have this big red tube, like a really long skinny one, that was one of the first tubes that we were in behind the boat, and there was this one time that my Grandma and my Nona were in the tube, and it was really funny because the tube was really bouncy, so every time one of them would go up, the other one would go down. And my Nona always tells it how every time I knew she was going up, I was going down. The other way around. And another thing that I remember about Grandma is that, that she loved being in the water, and my mom wanted me to say that she went to Lakehead U aquatics class since '86, and Anne, wherever Anne is, over there, can attest to that. She loved being in the water, and she always wore her water shoes because she didn't want to touch the dirty ground. And the last thing that I remember about Grandma is that her relationship with Grandpa, and how Grandpa was always her knight in shining armor, and how they always did everything together and had conversations like the one that my dad did earlier.
One thing that I remember that my grandma loved to do is watch us have fun, especially at the cottage. She would sit on the cottage deck for hours on end, watching us learn as we were being whipped around in the boat by my dad. When we were little, she made Grandpa make a little sandbox for us so she could watch us be entertained for hours. My sisters and I would treat Rocky Point like a system. We would do different jobs to keep our pretend house up to date. We remember Grandma would give us little containers to transport the bugs to our Rocky Point.
And the last thing that I remember about my grandma was that she was always very emotional, and she always felt things to the fullest, and whenever we had to leave, always early in the morning after 2 weeks of staying at the cottage, she would always cry. Even though she tried to hide it, she would be sad that we were leaving, and she felt that very strongly, even though we knew that we were going to see her at Christmas time or at Easter whenever they came down to visit us in Guelph. But she was always very emotional, always very happy or sad or just very content with life, and you knew what it was because you could see it on her face.
Grandma loved eating fresh fruits and vegetables. She took pride with her garden at the cottage and her raspberry bush behind her old house. And we would always make Saskatoon pie with her, and every time we went to go visit her, she would have homemade raspberry rhubarb jam. Another thing I remember is Grandma always wanted a dog, but Grandpa wouldn't let her have one. So when we got our dog, our Bichon Frise Ozer, she loved walking him, petting him, feeding him, and caring for him. We brought him to the hospital during Christmas, and he would sit on her lap. There was a picture of it up earlier, I'm not sure if you saw it. And Grandma would just enjoy his company. Great, that's it.
Well done. Good job. Grandma would love that. Next, Jim Edwards, Mom's nephew from her sister Winona. There's a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, on behalf of my sister Melanie, and my two brothers, Peter and David, I would like to extend our condolences to Carol, Mark, Uncle Bill, and your families. Aunt Marion was a very big part of our lives as we grew up in British Columbia and when we moved to Ontario, and we're going to miss her. I was fortunate enough to have some very nice conversations with Aunt Marion during the last few months of her life. She often spoke of her family and the trips they took, how much comfort she took from the good times they had together, and how important it is for all of us to create the memories that sustain us and give us comfort in difficult times.
Thanks, Jim. And finally, Ron Gotts. Ron is our next door neighbor from, I don't know how long ago, on Lansdowne Court, and the witness to many students coming and going from our house. Ron.